This project is a cabin located in the mountains of the American Southwest. My client built this with his parents back in the 70s when he was just a child, but as you can see, this isn't your standard cabin. Sitting deep in this pine forest, they created a 12-sided treehouse cabin that they could use for weekend breaks and holidays. And it holds a lot of very happy memories that he's taken into his adult life. But now he has his own adult children. He came to me to try and bring it up to date and solve some of its fundamental layout problems to make it usable for the next generation. If you're new here, my name is Gemma, I'm an architect, and on this channel I share my design process for remodeling existing buildings, and I share that full design process in my supported group program, Design Like an Architect. So the cabin is structurally sound, but presents some genuinely unusual challenges. The first of these is obviously the shape of the building. With 12 faces to the exterior walls, the roof is essentially composed of 12 wedge-shaped segments. As an open volume, that's fine, it's an interesting feature, but this is not an open volume. It's a small home with bedrooms, a kitchen, a living space, and a bathroom. And in order to live in those spaces, to furnish them and lay them out in a way that a person can move from one area to another and access their different functions, the internal walls have been laid out in an orthogonal composition. And this creates a clash. The vertical walls have to meet the ceiling at multiple different angles as they cut across those wedge-shaped segments. And with the bedroom and bathroom doors in the center of the building, the furniture has ended up getting pressed towards the outer walls. The result is both visually and spatially chaotic. Where the internal timber cladding meets the white multifaceted ceiling, the cut points create awkward, uneven curves that accentuate this clash. And then on the floor plan, there are pinch points and awkward angles everywhere, creating corners that can't be used or accessed. To try and counter some of these problems, the family never completed the original plan of enclosing both bedrooms, instead opting to capitalize on the improved functionality of an open plan concept. But the result has been to always live with a compromised layout that is a bit chaotic and lacking in privacy. You can see here that there are 2 single beds in the living area, which has a slightly confused arrangement of chairs and a sofa with no real focal point to orient towards, but a natural inclination to try and look out at these lovely woodland views. The stove is in the center point of the radius and ends up kind of behind the living room chairs and in front of the doorways to the bedroom and bathroom. In an open plan volume, that would make so much sense as everything would circle around it to focus on it and spread the heat evenly. But this isn't an open plan volume. And while these rooms could benefit from the heat if they leave their doors open, that kind of defeats the object of having doors and walls and makes this very awkward clash of functions where the hearth overlaps with the main point of circulation. The layout of the kitchen doesn't help as it has this peninsula worktop that kind of pushes you back towards the hearth and furniture and makes you walk all the way around to the other wall to get into it. The bathroom's cramped, and then you have a very steep flight of stairs that connect you with the floor below. The problem with the staircase is that it has to fit between 2 of the 12 radial beams that support the upper floor. These radiate out from a central cinder block pier and are doing vital structural work, so can't be changed. Downstairs, the space has a very small WC and basin, and the room was never finished, so is essentially just used as a large open store. So while this cabin is quite a 1970s time capsule, the owner felt it was time to have a full rethink and provide his children with the kind of usability they would need in order to want to continue using it. So that means creating privacy, updating the materials, and rethinking the layout to bring some calm back into this holiday home. Talking of holidays, with summer coming up, I find my email inbox gets overwhelming fast. So I've been trying out tools to make staying on top of things easier. Superhuman Mail is part of the Superhuman Productivity Suite and uses AI to help me manage a chaotic inbox without missing important messages from colleagues and clients. So here's how I use it to help my email feel less overwhelming. During a design project, I'm often going back over loads of email threads to find one fact a client mentioned weeks ago. Instead of scrolling through all of them myself, I can just use Ask AI to dig out the exact detail in seconds. And then when I'm in the zone and drawing away, switching back to emails is such a headspace shift. So I love write with voice. I can speak my thoughts out loud rather than type them, and Superhuman Mail turns that into a clear, typed email. It saves a ton of time and headspace, so stop chasing the next quick AI hack and start using a system that makes email feel less overwhelming with Superhuman Mail. So the first decision he made was that the internal stairs should go. That meant the downstairs area could be treated as a separate small accommodation suitable for adult children and guests. So upstairs, we need to bring back 2 bedrooms as was originally intended, and to make this whole space actually work. So I've talked already about how the hearth overlaps with this main circulation crossing point, and that the intersections with these outer walls are forming some strange little angled corners which are unusable. So the approach I brought was to flip this on its head. Instead of trying to draw people to the middle of this building and end up with the furniture pressed around the outside, I want to do the opposite and bring the furniture and key living areas to the middle and bring the circulation to the outside. That way we stop the overlap of function and movement that is making this space so chaotic. So the good thing about the structure is that none of these internal walls are supporting the roof, because everything is resting on the exterior. So that means any changes to them are relatively straightforward. I wanted to consolidate them into something much simpler that is serving fewer overlapping functions. So replacing them with one principal partition that splits the space into 2 set off the principle of calming and centering everything. Rather than taking that partition right out to the external walls, I pulled it back at each end so that those points would become the entry points to the bedrooms behind. This allows the stove to remain the central focal point and keeps it within reach of its original chimney, and it creates a clear direction for the living room to face the stove and form a functional, cozy area with a TV. The dining table is removed from the kitchen peninsula to allow free movement around it, and the peninsula is replaced with an island worktop, again to allow free movement around it. Instead of taking the internal timber cladding all the way up to the ceiling and highlighting all those awkward intersection points with the contrasting timber and white plaster, I struck a datum line for the top of the timber panelling throughout the whole space. Now those awkward intersections get blurred into white meeting white at the top of the wall, and the visual strength instead is in the contrasting single straight line at the top of the panelling. That ties in with the sliding pocket door that takes you into the bedroom, which now has more space to move around the bed and has a small fitted wardrobe where an angle forms. The windows in here have been replaced with patio doors to access an extended external deck, which again creates an attractive view from the living room when that pocket door is pulled back and you can see directly through to the outside. On the other side, where the staircase used to be, is now the route through to the bathroom and the other bedroom. This bedroom again has more space now that it's not having to accommodate the awkward pinch points of where the bed used to meet the external wall, and is almost a mirror image of the other bedroom. The bathroom is now a shower room and is more generously sized for a family. Or there's the option to make it slightly smaller and bring the washer dryer into that corridor. So now the basement area is accessed separately as its own little apartment, which essentially adds 50% to the usable space of the cabin. Just the same as upstairs, the focus here was on creating the anchor point at the heart of the building and the movement spaces around the perimeter. In here is a small seating and dining area. A kitchenette with a 2-ring hob. A shower room where you can see those radial beams converging on that central pier. And then the bedroom with a new, larger window introduced and a small electric heater. The aim of the whole woodland cabin was to create a retreat for this family, a sort of treehouse escape. But where before the compromises were part of the adventure for that family of 3 in the 70s who built this space themselves, for this next generation, the draw is to make this a real calm retreat in amongst the woodland that doesn't involve so much compromise and will therefore continue to be used well into the future. And if you've just watched this and thought, I know my building has great potential, I just can't get there with the design myself, then my group program, Design Like an Architect, is precisely for you. I share my full design process in a way that makes it yours and specific to your building. You can learn more about it on my website and find out how I could help you and how you apply. And if you're new here and just looking around, then enjoy the other videos on my channel, and I will see you next time.